How should you behave properly in work meetings? How can you win over your boss or clients in work meetings? In this video, I've put together some important information for you to use in your daily work, in meetings, or when you need to sell something. If you work in sales as well, I'm sure these tips will really help you create a positive image. When we create a positive image, we build trust. And people naturally buy more ideas and products and do more business with those they trust. This video is essential for you if you work in any field or even have your own business, because after all, your attitude in your daily work is fundamental regardless of the market or industry you work in. The first point we need to think about is your clothing. Do you dress appropriately? What kind of business do you work in? Each market, each business has its own context. So for example, if you are a personal trainer, naturally you will wear gym clothes to work. But if you are a lawyer, naturally you will go for more formal clothing. So it's very important for you to really understand the context of the company you're in to know what to wear. And in the case of presenting a project or wanting to sell something to someone, it's also important for you to understand what your client's business is. Sometimes you're selling to a company, some project that you came up with. It's also important to understand that company's dress code. For example, if you want to sell something to lawyers, to a law firm, it's a good idea for you to dress more in that formal style. Whereas if you, for example, are going to present a project to a startup, the business model is completely different from a law firm. So more casual clothes will be more appropriate. When you're also going through the hiring process, it's essential for you to research the company's field. Naturally, if you are already part of that line of work, for example, if you are going through the hiring process for a gym and you are a fitness professional, you naturally already know the context you should follow. But if you are working in the corporate world, it's essential that you research what style of clothes people wear to work at that company. Today we have a tool that helps us a lot, which is social media. Companies are increasingly present on social media, on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and even TikTok. And you can take a look at how people dress there. That way, when you go through the hiring process or even start working at that company, you'll already fit in better and end up adapting more easily to that environment. Here at this moment, we're not talking, for example, about your style, what you like, or personal matters. We're talking about the dress code, what's appropriate for working at a company, for working in a certain context. So it's important for you to have a sense for that, to know how to interpret it, because that's going to be a big advantage. But there are also some elements that can end up sabotaging your image. So we're not talking right now at this moment about the dress code, because you already understand that dress code and appropriate clothing are important. But what in fact can harm your image even when you're wearing appropriate clothing? You're dressed appropriately, but what could still end up harming you even more, even though you're dressed according to that environment, that work context? Well, the first point is dirty clothes, right? Dirty clothes are really not acceptable. Clothes that are very worn out, sometimes with pilling, can give the impression that the clothes have been used a lot, that they're very old, or that they might not convey an elegant image. Clothes that are too tight or too low cut can end up, especially for women, creating a different impression than the one you want to convey. Another thing that can harm your image is having too many logos, especially shirts with logos. Regardless of whether you work in an informal environment, the ideal is for you to either wear the company shirt. If it's a company logo, that's totally fine, but if it's some other logo, brand, or drawing, that can make your image look a bit childish. So if you like to wear t-shirts, it's best to wear a plain one. Another thing that can really harm your image is hygiene. So hair, teeth, nails, all of that is also essential for you to present yourself in a more appropriate way. I could spend hours talking here about proper attire and company dress codes. So if you like this topic, comment below if you want to see more content like this, because I can come back and make a very specific video about it. The second point is really paying attention to punctuality. Unfortunately, here in Brazil, we have the bad habit of being late, but in business, it's essential for us to try to be punctual and not be late for meetings, whether they're online or in person. If by any chance you're going to be late for a meeting, it's a good idea to let people know. And something I really like to share, a little trick I often give my students, is this. If you're going to be late, it's a good idea to add about 10 extra minutes to the time you'll actually be late. For example, if you know you're going to be 10 minutes late, say you'll be 20 minutes late, because then you can arrive within the time you said and without rushing too much. If you arrive at a meeting, especially in person, in a rush, that can make you really sweaty and very nervous. And then all that confidence you want to project and want people to feel when they see you can end up being affected. So it's kind of like being fashionably late, you know? So I think this trick is essential for you, not to be used all the time, but when you need to use this tactic. Another point is to arrive at work meetings and project presentations with a smile on your face. A smile will naturally make you seem more charismatic, and this will be very positive because people will be more open to your ideas and your points of view. One important thing to mention is that there are countless studies that talk about the impact of smiling and how valuable it is. There are studies, for example, from the University of Brasilia and the Federal University of Goiás that say 38% of the attractiveness of a man's face is associated with his smile. Or even studies like those from IBGE, which show that when a person smiles, they can relieve tension, feel less stressed, and do better, feeling happier in that moment. In other words, when you smile, 17 muscles in your face move, and that releases your tension, making you happier and naturally giving you more confidence. Because once you feel good, that naturally comes across to other people. And this thing about smiling is so important that people even see you as younger. A study conducted by the University of Kansas in the United States found that when you smile, people perceive you as being younger. So it's really something amazing, and it's worth showing. And it's important that your smile be real and sincere. Move the muscles of your face because everything will be beneficial for you. An essential factor for projecting your image is not just the appropriateness of your clothing or whether it is suitable and appropriate for your work environment. But have you ever stopped to think that all the accessories you carry also influence the impact your image will have? So, for example, a very dirty purse, a purse that unfortunately is very old, or for men who like to use backpacks, a backpack that is very worn out, very shabby, dirty. Materials too, for example, stationery with dented pens, notebooks that are very scribbled on, very dirty computers. All of this will also, even in a subtle way, give the impression that you are not a careful person. So, many times it's in the smallest details that we communicate. And these details, especially your stationery and personal items, will be just as important as your clothing. So it's important for you to pay attention to that as well. So if you have a habit of chewing on pens, you should stop because it's really not a good look, and it also shows a bit of anxiety. And people might feel insecure when they notice you're a bit anxious, right? And the fact is, people buy more, they buy ideas, products, and services from those they trust more. So business is really based on trust. And if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to like it. If you like the channel, if you want to contribute to our work and help it reach more people, your thumbs up is essential. And also don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Many people follow the content, watch the videos, but aren't subscribed. So check here to see if you've already subscribed to the channel because I'm always here posting content and updates for you every week. Oh, and don't forget to follow on Instagram too, Etiquette Protocolo, where there's daily content for you as well, including stories. So I'm waiting for you there too. Now, talking a little about body language, we can't forget about your posture. Avoiding crossed arms and positions that show carelessness or lack of interest is also essential for you to lead good meetings. So, not only when you're participating in work meetings, when someone is presenting a project or your boss is holding a weekly status meeting, be mindful of your posture, but also when you're going to sell a service or a product to someone. It's very important for your client to feel that you're interested in what they say, what they talk about, and the problems they have. So your posture and your body language will make all the difference. You don't need to sit like a robot, but avoid leaning back too much in your chair. I know that many times during long meetings, it's hard for us to keep a certain distance between our back and the chair because that would be the correct way to sit. For example, at the table when you're eating, the ideal is to keep some distance. But in very long meetings, this can be a bit tiring for you. So try to keep your back well supported against the backrest of the chair and keep the chair close to the table because that way you won't be too far away. So maintain good posture even while sitting with your back against the chair because this will make all the difference in how your image is perceived. One of the essential points for having a good work meeting, maintaining good communication within your company or selling anything is learning to listen to people. So many times we take part in meetings where we don't even really know why we're there, or we just don't have the patience to participate in that meeting. Or sometimes that client is a bit annoying and we don't really feel much sympathy for that client. But one thing we need to learn is that it's essential to listen to people, especially to respect each person's point of view, to respect what people have to say, and to show interest, whether through our body language or also through questions asked at the end of the discussion. So don't interrupt people to ask questions or to share your point of view. Understand that there is a right time to speak, but often cutting people off won't be effective for your communication. So that person who is always interrupting others, who doesn't let other people speak, shows that the other person's opinion isn't important to you. Sometimes it actually is important to you, but you're not showing it. This can harm your image. So be very careful. A key point in the image you project during a work meeting is to really notice if you get distracted easily during a meeting. So, for example, if you have the habit of using your phone, picking up paper and writing random things that aren't related to the meeting, or opening your laptop and working on things that have nothing to do with it. Sometimes you're there, someone is holding a meeting, and you're buying plane tickets or checking clothing prices on fashion websites, for example. So be very careful with that. These kinds of distractions, sometimes we might think they're going unnoticed, but they are in fact noticed. And this really affects what people think of you. Because they might interpret that you're not really interested in being there, that you're not really interested in selling that product, or that you're not really interested in participating in that meeting. And this can end up harming you a lot. In fact, this point is also essential for online meetings where you can easily get distracted. And because it's online, we have all the windows and tabs on our computer open, which end up tempting us to click. So be very careful, because online it's also possible to notice when you're not paying attention. So it's important to stay alert. And one point that people forget a lot, but that is essential to make a good impression in the workplace. Wow, so many people forget about this factor, is dining etiquette. Why? It's very common to have meetings like in restaurants, to have meetings in coffee shops, and many people don't pay attention to the importance of good behavior. So, for example, knowing how to hold a cup of coffee, knowing, for instance, how to hold cutlery, how to hold a glass, even knowing how to eat certain foods. Knowing, for example, which dish you should order at a business meeting because there are certain dishes. Guys, for example, you don't go to a business meeting and order spaghetti, right? Those foods that make a big mess. You have to be assertive in your choices so you can do well and make a good impression. So all of these are factors that really get in the way. It's essential for you to pay attention to your behavior during meetings that take place in meal-related settings or even company cocktail parties, for example, coffee breaks, how you are going to behave, what to do, what not to do. In fact, at my school, I offer a very comprehensive dining etiquette course. It's a quick, practical training for you who really want to be more assertive in your table manners and master this aspect, holding good meetings and impressing your clients and your co-workers or even your boss. So I'm going to leave information about this training below. Thousands of people have already participated, and I'm sure it's very effective for those who truly want to improve in the art of table manners. It's a dining etiquette course that I think is worth taking because it will make all the difference in those work meetings. The link is down below. And speaking of factors we can't overlook, we talked about punctuality, but another point is also keeping meetings within the established time. So if you scheduled and planned a meeting to last 1 hour, it's essential that the meeting stays within that time. You need to be assertive in organizing your ideas. This will help you a lot to show that you are efficient and effective in what you set out to do. Especially when it comes to in-person meetings where sometimes we end up having a conversation before the meeting. We have to be careful to make sure we have an effective meeting that will really be efficient for everyone who participates. This ends up being much more effective in online meetings, where people don't have that initial conversation to break the ice, and they end up getting straight to the point. But it's important for you to pay attention to this, especially in face-to-face meetings. Another thing that we might not realize or might forget is to be someone who truly respects other people's opinions and is also positive during the meeting. So you have to be someone who knows how to listen to other people's opinions, even if they are completely different from yours. Knowing how to listen to what others have to say, understanding other points of view, and even taking into consideration perspectives that are different from what you're used to will definitely make you stand out. And we always want to be seen as a pleasant person, right? Being pleasant really opens doors, and we never want to be seen as someone annoying. Because being labeled as an annoying person is a hard label to get rid of. That's why I've already made a video talking about 15 habits that annoying people have. And I'll leave it here on the side for you to watch next. Well, that's it. See you later.